So welcome officially from my side, from the Executive School at the University of St. Gallen to this webinar today about job sharing. With that, I would like to say a few words about myself so you know who I am. I'm Patricia Widmer, and I'm the program director for open enrollment programs and diversity programs at the Executive School at the University of St. Gallen. I've been with the university for almost 7 years, and always on the intersection of diversity and management. And obviously, job sharing is one of the many topics that are very, very important in this area. One of my biggest passions, obviously, is also gender disparity at the top of companies. That's also the topic of my dissertation, and really empowering all different kinds of diversity aspects and initiatives. And therefore, I'm very, very happy that we can be here today with all of you talking about the very relevant topic when we talk about diversity. So today we want to talk about how can we use job sharing to actually retain skilled and motivated talents, but also, you know, how can we actually achieve our diversity objectives, also, you know, benefiting from a model of job sharing and top sharing. And I'm very happy that today we are here with two experts, my two guests. And so welcome, Nina and Maja. It's a pleasure to have you, and just a few words about you. So first of all, Dr. Nina Gilman, she's an economist and the CEO of TWISE. And I'm pretty sure she will say a few words about TWISE afterwards. And she has a vast experience in strategy consulting, worked more than 10 years at McKinsey, and now founded the very important organization TWISE in Germany. So welcome, Nina. Maybe a few words about your motivation with regards to job sharing and what TWISE is doing.
Thanks, Patricia. Thanks for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. About my personal motivation, well, it's always many things, isn't it? That makes you do something a little bit more dramatic and out of the normal way. But with TWISE, there actually was, you know, if you ask, a bit of a galvanizing moment after we returned from a work stint in New York. This is not too long ago. And in New York, my teams, you know, they were quite gender diverse. Leadership teams were gender diverse. So when we moved back to Frankfurt, I experienced what I call, with the benefit of hindsight, it was a little bit of a monoculture shock. And when I, as an economist, I looked into the statistics, and when I looked into the statistics, I discovered that Germany, so my home country, was second last in the European League table with regards to women in leadership positions. And that was a moment when I decided I'm not just going to look for the next job, but to create TWISE. So TWISE is an impact-oriented company, and it stands for TWISE WISE. So it has the job sharing principle already embedded into its name. And our goal with TWISE is to achieve 50-50 gender balance everywhere by work-life integration for everyone. So that is TWISE in a nutshell. Thank you.
Perfect.
For having me.
Thank you very much, Nina, for being with us today, and for also your very interesting motivation. Definitely interesting what TWISE is doing. And on the other hand, Maja Schreiner, very happy to have you here today as well. Maja is the CEO and founder of Sharing Tribe. Previously, she was a software developer, software tester. She's an agile coach, and has a vast experience in product management with over 20 years in the IT industry. So Maja, thank you so much for taking the time being with us. So what is your motivation with regards to job sharing, and what is Sharing Tribe doing?
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody. So I actually have already worked in an almost official job sharing model. I have, as Patricia said, many experience in IT. That also means many experience with working with self-organizing, multidisciplinary agile teams. And already while working with those teams, I have realized that it is really possible, even if you don't really have official job sharing, to share very productively and effectively your responsibilities and your role and your tasks. And since I'm also working mom, while I was working for Swisscom with 80% workload, I actually realized that actually 80% is a typical part-time problem, because you actually have a lot of responsibility for a full-time job and actually for more than 100%. And I was at that time working with 4 Scrum teams as an Agile test lead and QA lead. So I was actually mostly responsible for both strategic and operational roles and tasks. So after doing it for a few months, I realized this is really not manageable, right? I just can't go on my holiday without working until Friday, almost midnight, and really kind of handing over my job to, let's say, developer, and then coming back from a holiday and then again starting to work right like almost 100%. So I actually went to my boss, who was really very understanding and I could say also innovative and modern type of leader. And I explained to him, look, we need somebody almost like me. And if we can't find or don't have a budget for somebody like me, like in my senior position, let's actually employ a few people who are juniors. And so this is what we did actually. Swisscom has a strong experience and actually commitment to employing and educating young people. So I actually, for the next 3 years, had a young guy working with me who was more on the operations side, and I was more working on a strategic side. And that was, in that case, combination of job splitting and job sharing. Mm-hmm. To cut the story, that experience really made me realize that job sharing is really possible. So I educated myself, that was about 4 or 5 years ago, and never stopped thinking about the topic and helping actually others connect in job sharing positions. And as a result of this experience and motivation and passion actually for flexible workforce, I founded Sharing Tribe.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Maja, for giving us these interesting insights also into your journey towards job sharing and how you experience it yourself. So we would like to now to get to know the audience a little bit better. You know, what is your motivation to actually participate today, right? So we want to do the first poll with you. Why do you want to learn more about job sharing? That's what we would like to know. So we're going to soon see the poll. You can only choose one single answer. And we're waiting for the results to come in. So feel free to just cast your vote. Why do you want to learn more about job sharing? So what is your motivation to actually be here today for taking the time? And it will be very, very interesting to see what you're all saying. So I do see there are still some votes coming in. And we just give it a little bit more. So obviously there's a general interest, but I also see that some of you are actually considering job sharing as a potential future career move. And others, they also say that they work in HR and therefore they're interested for other flexible working models. So I do see different motivations to be here today. There's also interesting, obviously an academic interest in job sharing, but also maybe to become a driver of job sharing in the company. It's always good to have ambassadors. So we see there is a little bit of a majority when it comes to actually considering job sharing as something for yourself, but also because you work in HR. So I think this gives us a good insight, right, Nina and Maja, to also then going into our questions later on, what it means to actually do it. You can share your experiences, but also when we talk about working in HR, and Nina, I know you also work with a lot of companies, you can definitely also share your perspective on that. So thank you so much for letting us know where you stand. And then we would also like to continue with the second poll, so we know also, why do companies need job sharing? What is your opinion? You can actually also choose multiple answers here. So the question is really, why do you think job sharing is something companies cannot do without? And so the answers are coming in. It's good to see. It's definitely, we see that a lot of people think that's also an innovation driver. And as Nina just said before, it also improves a better pipeline management when it comes to female leadership. Then obviously balancing private and professional life, that's always something to actually foster in a company for the well-being of the employees. But I do see that the female leadership pipeline kind of won. But then obviously also the whole topic about balancing life in a whole, I think that's very important. We take this into consideration. You probably remember a few weeks ago, we also had a webinar about mental health and well-being in a company. And I think this caters directly to that topic as well. But we do see, Nina and Maja, there are a lot of great motivations why people are here today. And also, they are convinced that companies need job sharing due to different aspects here. And I'm sure when we go into the questions now, you can touch on these results a little bit further. So thank you so much to the audience for this introduction, because now we know a little bit better. We cannot do a whole round of introduction with all of you. That would be too many, but at least it gives us a nice picture about your motivation. So we want to start with the basics, you know. Obviously, we also want to touch on myth afterwards, but we want to kind of lay the ground and build on that. And we thought we want to really go into a few basic questions. And I'm going to start with you, Maja. What are the defining characteristics of a tandem or of a job sharing model? So Maja, maybe you can touch on that, and then we do a little bit of a conversation.
Yes, definitely. So job sharing means, as most of you certainly know, that 2 or even more employees are sharing one full-time position. That means mostly those employees are actually working in a part-time model. So they together build one full-time position or a bit more than a full-time position. So we have different examples. What is even more important is they actually have interdependent tasks, and they also have joint responsibility. With this joint responsibility, we say that very important it is that, of course, both employees, for example, who share, they really understand and trust each other. So they are very collaborative. They are ready to collaborate, to work as a kind of small team inside of a bigger team and bigger organization. And they are really ready to share the responsibility, to share the results, to share the outcomes. On the other side, when they work closely together, their results together actually are much better and much higher than if they would work separately. That is clear. So besides of these personal traits, like being collaborative, being able to communicate, being able to share, it is of course also very important that they share a common set of skills. For example, if we are talking about software engineers, they need to have this background and experience, if possible, of 1 or more years.
Exactly.
Still, so-called complementary skills are even more important, because this is exactly the problem today with recruitment. It is very hard to find one person who can be jack of all trades and who can do it all, right? So if I am, for example, more communicative and willing to go to stakeholders and talk to them, and the other person wants to rather do more background work and maybe talk to the team, then we really complement each other. Or, for example, if I'm better in software engineering and the other person in software architecture and software design, then we are again a dream team. What I would also like to add is that there is a top sharing, right? That is also very interesting for companies, And this is, as we say, a co-leadership model, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have two people who are leading a team, who are, for example, leading product managers, who are agile coaches, who are leading a chair as you are now, Patricia, but they are sharing this role and responsibility with someone else, again, because they want to have a work-life balance, or because they have complementary skills, or for any other reason. We also have a lot of examples of people finishing their MBA studies or other type of studies while working in 60–80% and sharing their leadership role.
Exactly,
And for the leadership, I mean, we can talk until tomorrow about this very specific, also transversal type of skills that are also sometimes hard to find in one person.
Exactly. Yeah, very interesting. Thanks, Maja. So Nina, so we heard about the benefits. Any other synergies you could add there?
I agree to everything that Maja has said. I just want to add, maybe even from the perspective of the tandem partners, what we always say is that your partner's failure is your own failure, and your success is your partner's success. So this really puts it, for me, that describes it quite well. You have to be able to move from the me to the we perspective. It's no longer about just yourself, it's about us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we can, there's so many advantages to working together from the perspective of the two partners and the companies, but let's go into that maybe a little bit later in more detail.
Absolutely, because we would also like, when we talk about the basics of job sharing, maybe Nina, you can give us a little bit more insights about how do those tandem partners, right? How do they actually typically organize their work?
So this question has a lot of facets. Let me address the one that most people find hard to imagine. So obviously every job profile is different for a start. But then if you divide a job profile into the various tasks that make up a job profile, you can quickly see which of them fall into what we call the sharing zone and which fall into what we call the splitting zone. And tasks that fall in the sharing zone mean both partners have the competence to work on the task, either individually or together, because they have complementary skills, or it's actually both of them. And if this task is also urgent or requires continuous progress and availability of someone, then this task needs to be worked on, we call it in a flow. A flow means one partner picks up the work where the other has left it, and the balls are continuously in the air. The tasks that fall into the splitting zone, what do I mean by that? It means that one partner alone has the competence to work on this task. Or maybe if both partners have the competence to work on it, it may still make sense that only one person works on it end to end. And this could have many reasons. I'm an economist, so for example, there may be a case of a comparative advantage. Yay, Ricardo, first semester. So in this case, the task is being worked upon by only one person in an on and off mode according to his or her part-time schedule. And the thing that we do in our onboarding program with our tandems is that we go through the different tasks that fall into their job responsibility and then assign them to the different zones, taking into account the tandem partner's individual strengths, but also the nature of the task, especially in terms of its continuous availability of someone really critical, because then you need to organize it in a flow.
Yeah,
so
very interesting.
This question a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely, because it gives us a little bit a clearer picture. And maybe Maja, if you pick on that, maybe what would be a good schedule, you know, from your experience? Maybe you can be very specific here.
Yes, well, from my experience and from other tandem partners and people who job share that we know, it is really the best to work every week, to say, for example, one person is working 3 days a week and the other one, for example, as well. And then that means they have 1 day a week when they work together, like both, for example, on Wednesday. So actually the first one starts on Monday, works until Wednesday. The second one starts Wednesday, works until Friday. So that again goes back to what Nina said about continuous flow of work. One picks up where the other left, etc. What can also work, of course, is splitting the weeks, right? So one person works in 1 week and the other one works in the second week, and some other models, right? What I would also like to add is about the whole collaboration aspect and technologies and tools. As most of you know, there are so many tools that enable us today. And this is actually why job sharing has become more important and more visible in the last few years, especially, is exactly because there are so many very nice and simple to use tools where you can, for example, you can use, I don't want now to make marketing for other companies, but you can share your documents, you can share your chat, you can actually, what we also always say, you should have a joint email address for this job sharing tandem, so that actually all inbound emails come to this one address, and then the team and the people who job share handle who is answering, right? Exactly. So again, sharing the documentation, sharing design, sharing software code, sharing any other documents is really super important, and that can be defined actually not only on the level of the tandem team, but actually of the whole team and organization. So here we are saying we are not inventing something new, but we are adapting to organization needs.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I mean, now we get a little bit of the fundamental ideas of job sharing, and we want to build on that. And now I would obviously like to challenge you to a little bit, because there are a lot of probably wrong pictures out there and myths, and we want to bust those myths. And well, let's do that together. So I would like to start with you, Nina, and I'm just going to throw it out. Let's be honest, job sharing only works for specific roles, right? Or what do you say about that?
Yes, very common prejudice. I hear it every time we meet a new client, and they're all excited about job sharing, and they're all, in their own mind, very open-minded, but it's just not for leadership positions, right? This is something, two secretaries who cover the same boss, one from morning till midday, the other midday to midnight. That's not even job sharing. That's working a job in shifts. So job sharing is, of course, all about collective intelligence, synergies, joint problem solving, making less mistakes as two. So the biggest synergies from this model are being reaped by the organization when a job is about managerial challenges, strategic decisions, leading people. So the opposite of what people have in their heads is actually true. And to answer your question in more general terms, the vast majority of jobs are shareable in a tandem. And we know this from big companies like Daimler, Mercedes, where job sharing has been a commodity across the organization for more than 10 years. I think at each point in time, they have about 300 job sharing, non-leadership job sharers, and about 300 leadership sharers. And we also know it from our own analytical grid that I talked before. If you really analyze the task, are they shareable? Can they be organized in a flow, or can they be worked on by one partner in an on and off schedule? Then you'll find that 99% of all tasks actually fall into one of the two categories, or actually can be fit into both. So that is my answer. Job sharing is for all types of roles, all types of jobs, and for everyone.
And for everyone. And that brings me to the next myth, Maja, because Nina said it's for everyone. But there is this huge myth out there, and I want to challenge you. Actually, job sharing is really only for moms, right? Or maybe for dads as well. Let's put it like not gender typical. So it's only for parents. Only people who have kids need job sharing. What do you say about that?
Yes, that is a huge myth, especially the part with moms. This is because it is still true that mostly, still even today, job sharing is done between women and then moms. That can have, I would say, two main reasons. First, as we know, moms want to spend much more time with their family, And they also have this complementary soft set of skills, right? Set of soft skills like communication, collaboration, and they're much more willing actually to job share. It's kind of biological. Still, parents, of course, if we want to have this female talent pipeline increased, right? If we want to have more female leaders or any other gender, right? We want to enable all genders. That means male, but also other genders. That would also mean parents in general. And there are more and more dads. Just this weekend on NZZ, you could read the article how actually fathers are actually discouraged from asking for a part-time job.
Yeah.
So I intend to write NZZ to ask them what about job sharing, and they did write about job sharing even before. So again, the dads need further education and companies as well to understand what does it mean to leverage all gender in job sharing. Yeah. Still, diversity is not only gender, it is age, it is background, it is culture, it is skills. So we actually prefer to match one person who is a senior experience and really professional with somebody who is to be educated, to be coached, as I also had this personal example. Or you can also match students with, again, seniors or people who have more experience, or with each other even, of course. And then there are also people who have this so-called career portfolio, like portfolio career, right? So they might have a job at the orchestra, right? And at Tonhalle, and they still want to work as software developers or leaders in a team. So there are so many different profiles and so many different target groups for job sharing.
Yeah. So now we really heard that this job sharing model is for any role and for anybody. So now we get that. But I think we also now have to talk about numbers, right? So what about the costs? So one myth that we always hear, Maja, is that if we have to recruit 2 people in one position, we have 2 times the recruitment cost. It's definitely more expensive. And even though we heard that there are a lot of benefits, but the benefits will never outweigh the cost. What do you reply to that myth?
Well, I completely disagree, especially that the benefits don't outweigh the cost, which is simply not true. Coming back to the percentages and costs, it can happen, for example, that originally company wants to has a budget for only 1 full-time position, right? Still, if they do employ, for example, 2 people in 60%, that means 1.2 FTEs and a tiny bit even more than 120% salary and everything, they are actually investing their future. They're first investing in this continuous flow of work, as Nina also explained. They're investing in knowledge transfer. They just have 2 brains, 4 hours, really 2 people who can do this job. And they are also retaining their people, because if you lose somebody who left the company, it costs you almost 1 year actually to find this new person and to get this person to speed, to be really productive and efficient. So instead of actually losing money, you're investing money. And on the other side, actually, the other benefits are also that, for example, if one person might leave a company, you still have the second person that goes back, that you don't need to recruit and to spend time finding again this dream candidate, onboarding him or her, etc. But
yeah. That's perfect. Thank you so much, Maja. Yeah, no, definitely. That's because that's, what usually people say, it's too expensive, right? I mean, that's a common answer to many topics, right? But it was very helpful to hear from you. And Nina, you also wanted to add something to that myth.
Well, I'm an economist, so I always struggle because what Maja said, of course, there's the economic value you add to the company when you do not lose talent that you have recruited, who's invested in trainings, etc. I mean, it's mind-boggling why you would not take care of not losing more, not really focusing more on retention. But I would even go one step further, because it does not even add any extra cost. At least in Germany, you have the right to reduce your work hours and part-time. So yes, if you compare the share of we call this social security cost that you have per capacity of one person, yes, but that's a given. You can't avoid it. So and looking at, so now we have twice the social double cost and on one position. Man, you're not getting the math straight. These costs are there, just looking at it from the perspective now, our budget for our team, we're going overboard. That's a very narrow controller's perspective, but it doesn't really make any economic difference. The costs are there. You have to deal with it as a company. You are legally obliged to deal with it. So I would say just that's even. But it is a very real thing for all HR people who are listening. It's a very real thing. It's a very real showstopper to introducing job sharing, because you are given a certain budget for your team, and you supersede it when you give a position to a tandem because of the social cost. So that is when you need to talk to the leaders in your company, because they need to adjust the steering mechanisms.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Maja?
If I can just quickly add from the experience I know from some other bigger companies in Switzerland, because there it's a tiny bit different with social insurances than in Germany. But as we know, different organizations in one company have different budgets. So, for example, if this particular role budget in one department is for one FTE, there is a strategy from top, from the CEO and from HR to actually add this 0.2, right, FTEs, so you can actually hire somebody else and have these two positions, right? So actually the departments actually can also split the costs.
Yeah,
this is also
absolutely.
experience that some larger companies have done successfully.
Oh, that's great. That's a wonderful addition here. So what we now talked about the costs, and we heard, okay, that's manageable. That's definitely busted this myth. But what about the risk, right, Nina? I mean, isn't it true that for a tandem to really work well, both partners need to be a perfect match? And when we want to have a perfect match, that again is a lot of work.
Well, I have three answers to that. It's definitely not true when it comes to competencies. I think Maja has already described it in what she said. Actually, it may make sense to choose tandem partners with complementary skill sets rather than the same skill set. It is somewhat true, I would say, with regards to the tandem partner's values and work ethic. Here you need at least compatibility, not sameness. You don't have to be the exactly same, but to illustrate this, someone who's a little bit more laid back about work quality and speed of work, right? This person will never work well with an insecure overachiever. Doesn't work. And it's somewhat true with regards to values and work ethic. It's definitely true when it comes to personality. And to put it quite simply, tandem partners need to like each other. Mm-hmm. Only if you like somebody, you're able to build trust over time. And only if you're able to build trust over time, can you learn to let go and be comfortable with the other being in charge and making decisions while you are offline. And this is why at TWISE, a short commercial break, we have a scientific and patented personality matching algorithm, which plays a big role in our tandem matchmaking service.
Yeah, very interesting. I think we always hear this risk, right? That in the end, I mean, every recruitment is a risk, but we always hear that recruiting two people for one job, it's even a bigger risk. And I'm happy to hear that this can be avoided. And I mean, even if you hire somebody in a regular team, you have to make sure that the cultural match is there.
It's hard to differentiate. And that's why I say your first lighthouse tandem you really want to reduce that risk, because as with any job position that you fill, you could fill it with the wrong person. You could fill it with the two wrong persons for the job.
Absolutely.
And actually, when clients contact us and they ask, well, we have a vacancy and we would like to experiment with a tandem. Can you provide 2 tandem partners for this position? We actually say no. We can do that, but we will not do that as a first lighthouse tandem, because the risk then for 2 tandem partners who don't even know each other yet, right? That they might not be successful for so many other reasons, because they don't know how decisions are being made.
Absolutely.
So,
if I may.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, Nina. So Maja, would you like to add something, or otherwise we go?
I just wanted to add the perfect way to get to know each other is actually in the community, and this is actually how we started last year in spring, with building the talent community, and not only talent community, like people who are job sharing, are willing to job share, but also people who are really supporting them, who have this experience, who want to learn more. And this is how, especially since you all know, almost until yesterday, we were not able to really meet live. So a lot of online calls have been done. And that was also a very nice way to get to know each other, very supporting, right? And this is, I mean, nowadays when everybody is actually connected, if, for example, the practice also shows if you have somebody already in the company, right, who is willing to job share, then this person might know somebody from outside the company who can then be recruited, or he or she knows somebody who knows somebody. So in all these circles, in all these communities, this is actually how we started with Sharing Tribe, with this first layer, right? To really build this trust and people to get to know each other.
Perfect. And that brings me actually to the next myth, Maja, because obviously we also heard that it doesn't really have to be kind of the perfect match in terms of same qualification, but it's really about the community and liking somebody and wanting to work with somebody. But then still, when we work together as a job sharing team, as a job sharing tandem, doesn't it take a lot of time for knowledge transfer? And we always hear also that it's could be not a seamless process, and obviously it takes time to build this trust and to know who is responsible for what. So what is your experience there?
Yes, so first we are actually negotiating with many companies, and it really depends on the company, on the role, on the know-how, a level, so to say, and experience, how much transfer, how much onboarding is really needed, right? I mean, in ideal case, you already have somebody who is in your company, who is willing to job share with somebody also from the company or from outside the company. In that case, we offer, depending again of the needs, let's say 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 6 months followed onboarding process, where of course the recurring sessions of know-how transfer are already integrated, but the learning is actually on the job, right? Mm-hmm. Because of course I can explain to you what my job is about and what you're supposed to do, but you also have to do that, right? Yeah. And that goes back to all the content and the stuff we explained at the beginning, as well as Nina. So job splitting, job sharing, really. But then also at the end of the day, everybody should do first the things they know the best, right? And this is also how the jobs can be splitted or shared. And just to sum it up, actually, this whole, I as mentioned, I come from the agile teams, right? So from a very lean, agile way of working. So that means that actually you can set up, especially on the day when you work together, 1 full hour joint meeting, also together with your team, but also 2 of you, and really do it recurrently. And then you actually inspect and adapt, right? You see what is missing, you tackle the next steps. And what I just want to add, in this onboarding needs to include not only the team, but who is sharing, but actually the whole team that they work with, stakeholders, line manager, HR also need to be included, and that can be part of a separate workshop.
Perfect. Thank you. Nina, you wanted to add something.
I just wanted to be a bit provocative back. What is, tell me one more effective knowledge transfer mechanism than two people with the same interest, with a common perspective of themselves, wanting each other to be successful and having no barriers to sharing all their wisdom, all their knowledge, then in a tandem. So I mean, I don't understand why not more people who don't give a damn about women in leadership positions actually introduce job sharing for the sheer purpose of improving upskilling and knowledge transfer. That's all I wanted to say.
No, that's a it's a good addition, because it brings me actually to the next myth, Nina, because obviously it absolutely makes sense when we talk about the two partners in the tandem. But now we also want to talk about the supervisor, the boss, the manager, you know. Isn't it then just more work for him or her, because he or she needs to manage two people, right? And obviously it also, when we talk about objectives, right, management by objectives, how can the manager make sure who is doing what and whose responsibility it is? So what is your take on that?
So, I mean, I hate to say that, you know, always the opposite is true, because it's so expected. I wish I could agree with that a little bit, at least. But we know from companies who have really institutionalized job sharing by now, like Daimler or Bayersdorf, to name just another example, that, you know, actually the opposite tends to be true. A well-functioning tandem will soon feel like a single interface. But then you get two brains, right? Thinking about the same job, problem solving together. So the quality and output and critical decisions actually improves dramatically, which means less work for the boss. And just last week, we had our internal community call, and a tandem from Daimler was, you know, just sharing a little bit of you know, in a more intimate setting, how it was like. And they were sharing the story where they were called to into a meeting with their boss, and they were like, oh shit, what have we done? And oh my God. And then the boss said, can you please slow down? You're such a well-oiled machine. Like, I can't keep up. The organization can't keep up. Can you please drink more coffee? Right? So this is just an example when it really works well. It works super well, and it's less work for the level above, and the team below, which is the other side of the coin. Of course, they benefit from two perspectives. You know, 4 eyes see more than 2 eyes, so you're more fairly evaluated. You learn from two different leadership styles. So if it works well, it's you know, win-win-win for everybody. But again, there are risks, you know. You could say if it doesn't work well and the tandem partners don't work well together, don't like each other, then you get all the downsides, of course. But that's also the case when you hire one single person for a job.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm looking a little bit at the time, because we have a lot of questions coming in, and I would love to actually forward them directly to you two. So a first question that we have here is from Eva, and it says, how to measure individual performance in job sharing?
I can answer that at least the first part. So there is, in this case, a split between joint responsibility and individual responsibility. And depending on the role, right, you can say that you are, I mean, you are sharing the responsibility, but the results. But if you're really sloppy, or if you're not motivated, or if you're at the end of the day not able to do your job, then we can't say the whole team is to blame, right? But then this is your responsibility. So I'm sure that many companies have different performance measures. Nowadays, it is actually very modern to have team who is actually giving a note to each other, right? And because mostly the leaders or the managers don't always know what all of their 20, 100, 200 people are really doing, or what their results are. So I would say that that would be also one of the tools and measures to apply, to actually also ask the rest of the team to define their own individual performance metrics, and then to really apply them to everybody. I wouldn't say it has to be very different for the people who job share.
Okay. Nina, any additions from your side with regards to individual performance measurement?
So, like I said, if you've decided to put some things in the sharing zone and you do them together, you should be evaluated as a tandem and not individually. And then the stuff that you've decided, oh, this really is your responsibility. And then of course, that is a part that gets evaluated individually as opposed to in a tandem. But then I really encourage clients to think about a tandem, not just in like, oh, but then I have to break it down to individuals. But the tandem is a tandem, it's a unit. And you want to develop that unit, you want to promote that unit. So to kind of make this artificially again about, you versus you, that's kind of the opposite of the whole spirit of the thing.
So thank you so much, because then we have actually a great question that picks up on that. Someone would like to know if there are companies or great examples, like best practices, where these ideas, of job sharing are actually really very well introduced and practiced already. Maybe Maja, you can talk about best practices in Switzerland, right? Well, and then Nina, maybe you can add what's happening in Germany, right?
Well, it works for all roles, right? But what I know is first IT, then marketing or any other product role, and also, as mentioned, in co-leadership roles like top sharing. And when talking about co-leadership, I know also from Swisscom, we have this tribe and squads type of thing, like Spotify model for agile teams, where you as a team lead actually have 100 people, right? So you actually, in this case, actually split, do the combination of splitting and sharing. And the experience is really great because also, as mentioned, some people have better communication or people leadership skills than others, and others are more operative. Then also in, like, for example, doctors or surgeons, can you imagine if 2 surgeons can share their job? Why can't we do that in some other less risky roles, right? So, yeah.
Great. Nina, what about in Germany?
So the big companies, like I said, Daimler, they actually started job sharing in the 80s, if you can believe it. And then 12 years ago, Zetterberg came back from his stint in the USA, quite similar to my story, really, and said, what is going on? And what he did was very smart. He said, we want more women in leadership positions. We will now attach your female quota for every manager to your bonus, but you can count a tandem, it's 2 heads, and it counts as 2 heads into your quota. And we also increased the budget, like Maja explained, 20%. So now all of a sudden there was this huge incentive because it's neutral on the budget, but it counts twice into my female quota count. So that's where job share, that was a very smart move, talking about incentive mechanisms from the top. So Daimler is, they don't really brag much about it because they have other issues perhaps now. There's other companies who are way more out there about job sharing, how innovative they are, like SAP, for example. Bayersdorf has started this some time ago, and they are now slowly doing what I call the litmus test of job sharing. Do you just use job sharing to give women an opportunity to plateau themselves yet again on a certain level, or do you make this dynamic and promote women in a tandem? And this is what you now see a lot of more job sharers advancing to leadership positions at Bayersdorf. The sweet spot, I think, are mid-sized companies because they really have an issue in the whole war for talent. If they are smart and get better at this because they're smaller and more agile, and really give these flexible work models to top women, I think the big companies will really regret that they're so slow on this.
Maybe there's another question which goes directly into that direction with regards to companies who have their headquarters in Germany, mainly. What would you say, how can someone convince those companies to actually also introduce job sharing models abroad, in their affiliates? Because our audience or one participant said that he or she often hears that the abroad part-time or job sharing is just not a topic. So how can German companies tackle that?
So this is introducing the job sharing as a German company, but in abroad. You're saying?
Yeah, exactly, like in their affiliates,
That is an interesting point to start. Usually you see companies, experiment with something at their base and then they bring it abroad but fair point. I think to some extent, this may be easier abroad because we have a very big cultural resistance. Germans are not early adopters. Unfortunately, whenever something new, it's kind of rejected just because it's new, right? So it's actually a good idea to start abroad and to say, hey, we're all one company. It works now in the UK or I don't know where. Why can't we introduce it here? Yeah. I always say at TWISE, we are a movement. We have, we're not a company, we're a movement. We do have a TWISE activist kit with concrete steps in whatever situation you are. If you are a gender balance activist and you want to shake up your company, contact us. We have we have materials. So you can be a driver of change in your own company if you want to, regardless who you are, exactly, where you are. So, to that person, I love the idea. If you want more materials or insights or advice from us, just contact us. It's all for free. We're a movement.
I think it also has to do with the culture, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure there are also cultures out there, countries where maybe job sharing is just not a topic yet. And so it will be very interesting to hear. But Maja, there are also a few questions with regards to Switzerland. So yeah. One was, I mean, you were talking also about the job sharing model in tech jobs. So the question was, well, where can we find job sharing opportunities that are not in tech jobs? And the other one was where to find job sharing positions, at all.
Yes. So again, it is true that Sharing Tribe is at the moment focusing on IT roles and also data science, machine learning, and AI. But we can definitely connect you with all other verticals and industries for job sharing. And this is also what we are doing, exactly this end-to-end matching between two people to a job. So please contact us by email. I'm happy to explain more, but just to answer for the general audience, actually I have mentioned communities, right? And also to pick up on the last question, we actually act as also coaches and leaders for other enterprises to actually help them create and maintain their communities of practice. Is it job sharing? Is it gender? Whatever other community of practice that is. But again, with a focus on job sharing and flexible workforce. So we actually want to, for this example from Germany and other countries, I can imagine that the people who are already job sharing in Germany or in Switzerland can actually coach those others. They're actually colleagues from another country with our help, of course.
Perfect.
So perhaps my advice to that person who wants to, all vacancies are usually, it's a full-time position. So we are working on creating a matching platform that is for free for people to find a partner on our platform, and then you two together can apply for a full-time position as a tandem. Which is one opportunity. because a lot of women don't feel comfortable, you know, applying for a full-time job, knowing that then, you know, they will have to admit, you know, I'd rather just work 30 hours at max a week, right? So this is a service that we want to offer. Again, like Maja said, you know, this is all about collaboration, not just within a tandem, but also this is the main spirit of Maja's business, our business, to help people really get a work-life balance that suits their individual human needs. And if contact us, and we'll think of something to help you.
So there was also another question here with regards to the competition, you know, when it comes to advancing in your career. I think that's a valid question, right? If you're a tandem partner and maybe one is developing faster than the other one, wants to take the next career step and the other one not, how do you handle such a situation?
If I may start, that should really be tackled and really openly discussed at the beginning of joint applications. So before you actually take this job, right? That goes back to personality traits, that goes back to matching, that goes back to getting to know each other and having trust. If you trust me, then you will tell me what your goals are, and please be open and honest. Of course, it can happen that after a year or two, your goals change. That is all human, that is reality, that is business. So still, the second person should stay, and normally it does stay on this job sharing position, right? And then the second one, or let's say the new one, the successor will be found. Of course, if there is like day-to-day struggle and the competition, then that is definitely not productive. And then that again needs to be addressed between two people or more that job share, or also through HR and their line managers. But those are all the things that can happen in every team, right? This is definitely not only happening in job sharing or,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I'm just checking the time, you know, we do still have a few questions open. We will make sure that we, with the follow-up email to you all, we will tackle them. We will give you insights where to go to. We also share the contact details of Nina and Maja. And I would just like to say a few words to as key takeaways from my side, which maybe also are helpful to all of you. I think, again, we heard that job sharing is for everyone and it's suitable for all kinds of roles. It has not a big barrier just because it's job sharing. It might be even beneficial with regards to different aspects in HR decisions. So with that, I actually would like to close this webinar. Again, you will get a follow-up email from us with the contact details of Maja and Nina. A few of the questions that are coming in, you can direct absolutely directly to Maja and Nina, and they're happy to interact with you. They're happy to share their knowledge with you. And also definitely, if you need more, I also saw that some people would like to get more literature and research about this topic. We are very happy to make sure that we provide additional reading with regards to this topic. So again, thank you so much, Nina and Maja, for being with us, for sharing your insights and your experience and vast knowledge here with the audience. And to all of you out there, thanks for joining this webinar. Thanks for being here. Please get in touch with all of us if you have further questions, and we'll look forward to welcoming you in the future to other webinars with regards to diversity and management. Take care and have a wonderful day.